Recording.
Yes, it is recording. So, Alex and Mr. Retro Central, I'm just going to the Heroes of the Storm launch event in Sydney, and I've got here the crew. I've got good old Millsy here with his beard. We got Jordan in the back. We got David from Rage Quit Gaming.
What's up, boys?
What's up, boys? Anyways, yeah, I'm gonna be recording a whole bunch of stuff tonight, so yeah, stay tuned.
Fucking camera. Yes. That was pretty good.
Sorry, bud.
I want to hold it all the time. Alright, 3, 2, 1, slap.
Hold it.
Thanks a lot. That's my homeboy right in the center.
Yeah.
Homeboy offers. Selfie? Take a selfie if you really want to. Swish. Get out of the light. Get out of the light.
Go up the stairs.
Yeah, you could probably make a lot of money.
This is a massive cinema.
Yeah. Do you want a business card?
Yes. My best friend would love it. She makes fun stuff like that.
Okay, so I sat down at my seat, and apparently everyone gets this skin key card, which is pretty cool. And I found this buddy. It's Arthur's. I'm sure you guys can tell right there. Yes, that's actually my first World of Warcraft pop vinyl, so that's all of them. So that's pretty cool. I may get the rest now. Hey, look, it's Diablo. Die! And there's, of course, there's the massive cinema room.
Have you guys ever seen a Blizzard cinematic look like that? Sorry, before that. So how many times have we been watching these trailers on YouTube? And even though YouTube's now going to 60 frames per second, it's 1080p, it's just not that. So that was actually authored, especially for you guys, in Dolby Atmos. So we got the cinematics team to re-render it so we can knock your socks off.
Nice.
So, welcome to the Nexus, Mike. It's so great to be here, guys. It's so great to see you all. Was anyone here at the Warlords of Draenor event we did? There you go. So we're back in VMAX 2, ready to knock your socks off with some amazing talent and some awesome stuff to share with you. So for those of you that don't know me, I'm Chris Davey, and I work with the Blizzard team here in Australia. And before we get into the main meat and potatoes of the presentation, I really want to spend a few minutes talking about the community, and specifically the Heroes community, because the game just launched today, yet we've got all you guys in the cinema super excited about the game, and super excited about, where we're going to take the product. So let's just talk for a few minutes about a promotion that we've been running. And this was called Heroesiscoming. And it was a Twitter promotion run on Blizzard ANZ. So for anyone out there that doesn't follow us on Twitter, it's our main communication vehicle for you guys. This is, basically PJ Russell, our community manager, is on this every day. We all read it every day. That's our voice for the Australian New Zealand market. So it's an important tool. So we wanted to celebrate everyone that's part of that. And, we brought a whole ton of people to the public eye with this promotion, and so I've grabbed a few that I'm really excited to share. And so if one of these is yours, or someone you know, I'd like you to yell out so everyone in the room can give you some love. So here's a few. This is Nerd Boy on the left. How good are those mounts? Think we can convince the dev team to maybe put them into the pipeline? We've got the guys that can make the decision here, so maybe you can ask them later on. And then we've got a great cosplay picture. This is Chris Kellett down in Adelaide. Thought that looked amazing. So they're working on a promotion for a BlizzCon competition as well. So they got a 2-for-1 off those outfits. Ardella did an excellent video featuring the song I Need a Hero. I had that song stuck in my head for days. Ardella's here tonight, and she's dressed as the incredible Jaina. So thank you so much, Ardella. And over here is one of our forum MVPs, Narul. And so his bird is Zul. And his bird features in a lot of his social media. So Zul was doing a little dance on his Heroesiscoming box, which is kind of cool. And then, of course, we had a launch cake. Blizzard loves cakes. Seems like every promo we do, there's someone making a cake. I love it. And then this one is a really important one, because this is Lachlan Blenner. Lachlan, where are you? There he is, over there in the corner. So Lachlan won the promotion, and we flew him down with a guest from Mackay up in Queensland. So Lachlan built this stencil, and he projected it on all these buildings in and around his house, and then he spray painted this on his car. So I highly recommend you guys go and check it out. That's devotion, so we're super excited about that. And I just want to say a couple other shout outs to a few folks that really important to the Blizzard community. They've been with us for a long time. And some new friends that have just joined us off the back of Heroes. So Dorothy Trans here from Team XL5. XL5 has been a big part of Heroes Esports, all the way from technical alpha all the way into the beta. So we're really excited. The game is out in the wild, and you guys are going to be able to knock Heroes Esports out of the park. We've got a bunch of folks that came up from Melbourne. We've got a great contingent actually in Melbourne that come to a lot of our events. They meet us at BlizzCon. It's wild. So we've got the lovely Amelia. She's over here. I saw her earlier today. We've got Rez from Silicon Sports. Rocks. This guy does so much for Blizzard games. And we've got our main man in Feza. I don't know if you guys know Feza. He's a phenomenal StarCraft observer. Did it for ages, and he's always part of the family. And then we've got another really special guest. It's a guy that kind of flew here the furthest, outside of course, the development team. And that's all the way from Perth. So it's Luke Happy Rage Rogers. Happy Rage has been pulling in questions from the forums and social media, so I'm getting ready for what he's going to throw at us in the Q&A. So, are you ready to hear from some folks who flew all the way here from Blizzard HQ in California for you? Stage, Chris Sigaty and Alan Dabiri from the Heroes of the Storm development team. Come on, give them some love.
Hey guys, thanks so much Chris, appreciate it. Get this situated. Alright, hey guys, thanks so much for having us here. My name's Chris Sigaty, I'm the executive producer of Heroes of the Storm.
Hi, I'm Alan Dabiri, technical director on Heroes of the Storm.
And we're super excited to be here. And why are we excited to be here? We're excited because we're here in Australia with you guys. This is actually, yeah, it's exciting. It really is. Give yourselves a round of applause and us, because this is actually Alan's and my first time in Australia, and what an epic event to be able to be here and celebrate launch with you guys. I've already gained at least 2 pounds from the beer I've been consuming, forced on me by Chris and team.
It's good beer too.
Also, I've seen apparently on the largest IMAX screen in the world in Sydney, right down in Darling Harbour. So exciting stuff here, being in Australia for the first time. We're clearly not going to spend enough time here, but we'll be back for sure. Already know that. But the other reason we're here and why we're so excited is Heroes of the Storm is finally launching. The game is finally available to everybody, and that's a big deal to us. This game has taken a long time to make, and it's a game that we feel like we've made with all of you. ANZ, specifically Australia and New Zealand, are some of our most passionate players in the world. We know that. And it's great to be here with you guys, just letting the rest of the world know, you know, what does Heroes launch mean? Many of you, can I see show of hands, how many of you have been playing in the closed or open beta so far? So many of you have been, and part of this challenge is we're trying to tell the rest of the world Heroes is here. So we have so many exciting things in store in the future, but today, this is about letting the rest of the world know that Heroes has arrived. And just finally here, why are we excited? This is Heroes. Heroes for us is Blizzard the game. It started at a BlizzCon, and it's been very community driven. It's been a game that we've continued to change and improve over time with the help of players, and we're really listening in a way I think that we haven't in the past. So super excited. With that, what we're going to do next is just dive a little bit into what the development process is like and go into a few stories. And I'm going to hand it over to Alan here to talk about what it means to create heroes.
Hi there. So, we wanted to kind of give you a brief glimpse into what it is what's the development process for some of the things that we put into Heroes. And I was going to start with creating heroes. So, what better hero to select first than Johanna, which we just actually launched today. You can actually go and play her today, in fact. She's now available. So, if you're not familiar with Johanna, she is the Crusader from Diablo 3 Reaper of Souls. We wanted to talk a little bit about what was the original design, what was the original intent behind Johanna, and then some of the challenges we faced as we were playtesting her, and ultimately, what did we do to solve her, and then finally, what her abilities and kind of her core mechanics are in the game right now today. So, let's talk about the original concept. First of all, we really wanted her to be this tankiest of warriors, like literally the tankiest warrior in the entire game. Just from the way that she looks, the way that she plays in Diablo, a lot of these things kind of led us to that, in addition to what else we thought we needed in Heroes, and what we thought we needed was an extremely tanky Diablo warrior. Another thing was, again, the look of the hero can really drive what we want to do with their abilities, and so just seeing that awesome shield made us go, you know what, we really want this shield to be a core element of her kit, and try to focus a lot of her abilities and her mechanics around that. And then finally, we wanted her to be this immovable object. It's really a continuation of this tankiest warrior, which is, we wanted her to just be this force to be reckoned with that the enemies could not get through. She would just stand there as this force, this wall that was just impassable. So, as we started playtesting, immediately we started running into challenges. So, let's talk about what those challenges were. Number one, immediately we got feedback from internally, this was internal playtesting, we playtest pretty much every single week, that she wasn't powerful enough. And this is a challenge that we faced with a lot of the D3 heroes, because in Diablo, every hero is basically incredibly powerful. You just run around just destroying waves of minions and monsters, and once we bring those heroes into Heroes of the Storm, we have a bit of a challenge there, right? Because we can't have these heroes just completely destroy everything on the battlefield. There needs to be balance there. We need to go between their tankiness and their damage. So really what we wanted to do here was we wanted to still maintain that idea of this tanky warrior, but what could we do to give her a little more power and really customize your hero? And so we can make trade-offs. So one of the first things we did was we immediately started putting more of that power into her talents. We made it so that if you wanted to go more damaging, you could do that. You could select talents that give you either damage or power at the expense of tankiness. And so this really puts the power into your hands now, deciding which way you want to go. Another thing we did is we actually also kind of buffed some of her abilities. Like originally her punish ability, her Q ability, was actually a flail bash. She swung her flail. Number one, to kind of follow in line with that whole shield as a core mechanic thing, we switched it to a shield bash. And then in addition to the damage that it did, we created this slowing effect as well. And it really plays out nicely and gives her this sense of additional power that I'll talk about a little bit once we talk about her final ability set. Next thing was her shield. We talked about how we wanted it to be such an important part of her kit. Originally, an interesting thing is, Johanna actually had a toggleable shield. Originally, you would hit a key and she would bring up her shield and go into a different mode. This is very similar to like the Footman in Warcraft 3. We thought that was a really cool mechanic. We wanted to try it out here. And again, we ran into some trouble. Through the playtesting, we found that, number one, there was an issue with when you went into this shield mode, a lot of her abilities didn't make a lot of sense. You know, we had a set of abilities that played off of what she was doing with her normal pose, her normal stance. As soon as she was in this kind of shield mode, some of these abilities didn't make sense. So we either had to change those abilities and have a different set of abilities depending on which mode you're in, or you just couldn't use some abilities depending on which mode you were in. And really through playtesting, it just felt a little bit cumbersome to have to do that. In addition, we also needed some kind of a cost between switching between modes so that it felt like there was a reason to go from one mode to the other. And that cost could either be through time, through a cooldown, or through mana. And so what we found is that a lot of players were really struggling with when should I go into which mode versus the other mode. So ultimately, we just felt like this mechanic did not work that well for her. I will say that we're still kind of interested in this idea, and we may actually bring this back in the future, but for her, it's probably not going to be that way. It's not that way, because you can play her then. The final was this lack of mobility, and this plays to that whole immovable object. As a tank, while we do want her to be very absorbent of damage and can really defend the back line, she needs mobility. Your tank needs to be up in front. Your tank needs to be able to engage and initiate that combat. And this whole idea of the immovable object tied with this shield toggle and making her kind of this slow-moving thing, it just ultimately didn't work for a warrior. So what did we do for these final two things then to solve that is, really that's what we did with her core trait. Her Johanna's core trait, and this is in the shipping version that's available today, is called Iron Skin. And what Iron Skin is it really defines her as a tank. It is an activatable trait. So you hit that D key, and when you do that, she becomes unstoppable. She gains a shield as well, but that unstoppable ability, what it means is the enemy cannot stun you, slow you, or CC you in any way. So this really gives you some incredible ability. Like now you can charge into battle with that Iron Skin pop, and then synergize off your other abilities. In addition, it really allows you to play with your teammates, your allies, to initiate that combat and allow them to follow you up. You can also use this in the opposite direction, which is probably more the way that we end up playing, which is we overextend a lot, and as a result, we're way too far ahead, our team's not with us, and we can use that to actually back out as well. If we need to do a very controlled retreat, we can pop that Iron Skin and kind of make our way out. So it really defines a lot of her base aspects of this hero, and it ties into a lot of her other abilities. So let's take a look at what those abilities are. This is basically where we ended up in this final version that's available today. Her Q is called Punish. It's that shield bash. I'll actually show you the videos. It's probably easier to see them, so I'll just quickly go through these. W is Condemn, and then her E is the Shield Glare. So let's take a look at these videos. We're really excited to see you guys play her out and let us know what you think. So now Chris is going to come back, and we're going to talk about Battlegrounds a little bit.
All right. Thanks, Alan. Okay, so what I'm hoping to accomplish here with this is to give you a glimpse into just how the journey really is in creating Battlegrounds. Battlegrounds are a really important part of Heroes. It's what we're trying to create this tone of expect the unexpected in the game, and Battlegrounds are a key part of that. So we have 7 in the launching game. You're probably familiar. Most of you here have played. We have Cursed Hollow. We've got Dragonshire, we've got Blackheart's Bay, we've got Haunted Mines, one of my personal favorites. People may have other opinions on that, but one of my favorites, Garden of Terror, Sky Temple, and one of our largest maps and one of the most interesting changes there. But what I'm going to focus on today is talking a bit about Tomb of the Spider Queen. And this is one of my favorites, ultimately is the favorite because it's so fast action. And to take you on the journey here for a moment, I wanted to describe to you where we started with goals. And our level design team has really created, I think, a lot of different variation in the game. And this seems like it's such a smart place. We start right there, them knowing exactly what they want. So there were core goals, smaller, more intimate map, bam. How many have played on Tomb of the Spider Queen? Show of hands. So many of you have played on it. That is, the map had that, right? Smaller, more intimate. Also emphasize fighting in the lanes. It has that. We hit the goals, amazing. But the journey was actually very, a long way of getting there. So we set out with those goals, but when we started, there was actually no turn-ins at all. And you'll see why that presented a lot of challenges. The second differentiation was, although you see spider webs here and we worked this spider motif in, initially, the game was not, this mission wasn't even focused on spiders or any of that. It was focused around ghosts and souls, and it was in a crypt. So right off the bat, we started questioning whether that was right. We knew that it didn't feel quite right. It was a lot like Skulls and Haunted Mines. And then Sam Didier and the art staff started showing us how wrong we were. Let's do something cooler, let's focus on something else. And some of this concept art is how we changed our minds and focused on this spider motif, this spider concept down there. And then finally, the third thing that was also very different is everything dropped gems initially. So mercenaries and all minions dropped gems. And what this created was a situation where basically there wasn't a lot of tension. Everybody was gathering gems, and you would hit your target number, your 60, and you would immediately trigger the spider queens, and it was happening quickly. There was not any real risk. You just had to move as fast as you can, so it was more of a vacuuming mechanic than anything else. As we began playing through that wasn't fun. How could the level designers find the tension they were after? And so the first thing they focused on was limiting gems. And you can see here from the shot, there's gems only started dropping from the minions, the spiders the ranged spiders, the jeweled spiders, which made it clear as well. But by limiting the number of gems, you didn't have it happen at such a quick rate. So it immediately started making things feel a little more tense. It lasted a little longer before the mechanic kept going off. The second part of it was adding turn-in locations. We literally didn't have turn-in locations. It was such a huge change in how you experienced the mission, how you experienced the battleground. Adding those turn-in locations suddenly created this tension of, do I hold on to these gems? Do I move forward and try and do that turn-in? It also had the opposing team trying to prevent you from doing that, and that was great. But still, one of the final bit here is we didn't actually have an affiliation on the gems to begin with. So you actually, if you committed and went and tried to turn in gems and you were ambushed, all of your gems would spew out, enemy team would get it, and it was a giant snowball effect that would happen. And it's basically easy to take the other team and kind of win through that. So through this playtesting, we finally landed on team affiliation being added to it, red and blue gems. If you died, it was okay. It was a risk you're willing to take. Yes, it can still give an advantage to the team, but they can't pick that all up. And your teammates can also join in and try to collect those up if you're taken down. Ending on the map we had, which had those other goals, but through that we ended up with this heavy focus on laning. The mechanic was really with the ranged minions out there. That's where you were going to collect your primary ones. You can get some by killing enemy heroes as well, but it keeps you in the lane. The smaller map, we still kept the size similar, but it encourages flanking and constant fighting within the lanes. You can quickly move back and forth between those lanes. So those goals were hit. And really that came out of the mechanics being playtested over and over again and developing into a mechanic that reinforced what we were after initially. So a couple of interesting development insights. So when we first had the spider waves being created, they would actually have mass amounts of spiders, lots of different minions doing relatively the same damage. It was basically the same as it is today. And the level designers kept scratching their heads because the feedback was like, it's too powerful from some folks, but other folks felt like it was right. And it took us a lot of playtesting to understand why that feedback was coming through. And what it turned out to be is AoE-based heroes were wiping the weaker minions very quickly. It felt easy, but single target heroes that didn't have that sort of AoE attacks were saying it's too powerful. And so we ended up with just the Spider Queen and her 2 minions that get summoned along with all the minions that are pushing down the lane being the right amount. But it took us a lot of experimentation and testing to find that out. And then the other thing, for all of you mod makers out there, all those people working on your own games, something that we've sort of stumbled onto as a philosophy is about snowballing. Very early on, this map was heavily snowballing. One team would feel like they got the inertia and then they would go on to win. And what we've learned over time is not to worry about that. If you focus on the snowballing early on and you try and solve that problem, you end up not getting to the guts that we were after and all of these changes that came over time about adding a turn-in and making team-affiliated gems and all that. So maybe it could apply to something you're working on, something that you're seeing. Just to not worry, you have to pick the battle you want, and snowballing was something that we pushed off and solved at the end. By the time all those things came together, snowballing really went away, and it is a really tense, fun battleground to play on, at least in my personal opinion. So there are some insights into creating one of our battlegrounds. We've got some more coming up in the future that we'll be excited to share with you then.